Hi, welcome to Mormon Scripture Explorations. Today we're going to take a look at 1 Nephi chapter 3. This is essentially about the attempts to get the records, the brass plates from Laban. Chapters 3 and 4 are a continuous story that culminate in the acquisition of the plates and return to Lehi. It begins when Lehi has a dream. He has another oracular dream. This is, as we noted, it's a very common means of revelation in the ancient Near East, and essentially was a standard way that prophets had visions or received revelation. Anyway, his sons are told to go to Jerusalem. They're told to get the plates from a person named Laban. Now, Laban is a biblical name, but he appears to be already known to the sons of Lehi, and because, it just says go to Laban, and they seem to know who he is. He has what they call a record of the Jews and a genealogy of the forefathers of Lehi. Now, this is described in greater detail in chapter 5, so we'll wait to describe the contents of the plates till the discussion of that. It also says they're engraven upon plates of brass, and this is basically where we first hear about metal plates in the Book of Mormon. It's important to note that the King James term brass translates nechusha in Hebrew, and that means a copper alloy of some sort, generally copper tin, and it is almost always translated in modern translations as bronze. So when the King James and the Book of Mormon talks about brass anything and brass plates, they're talking about what we now consider bronze, which was a standard metal in the ancient Near East. The writing of scriptures and religious documents on metal plates is very common in antiquity. I've got an article that I wrote that's listed there, as well as some other material and references and to other bibliography and articles in the gray box there. So if you want to pursue that further, take a look at that. But the point is, it's very common to write on metal plates in antiquity. The Bible does not talk about having a record of kept on brass or bronze plates, however, and we'll discuss that a little bit later when we talk about what was on the contents of the brass plates, where they came from. Anyway, Laban and Lemuel and Nephi, and presumably Sam as well, are ordered to go back to get the plates and return to the Lord. Now, Laban and Lemuel, as usual, murmur. They don't like this idea, but Nephi gives his famous statement, "I will go and do the things the Lord commands," which is widely quoted among Latter-day Saints. So the stage is set. They're heading back. Laban and Lemuel, of course, complain, but they go because, again, as I noted, they always do what their father says. For some examples of metal plates in antiquity, I've given this sample of what are known as the Pyrgi plates. They're from southern Italy. They date to the 6th century BC, in other words, just to the time of Lehi. They're written on gold plates, and they're not too big, 4 or 5 inches, maybe a little more than that, tall. But some are written in Etruscan, and some are written in Phoenician, which is essentially the same alphabet as Paleo-Hebrew. So the middle one in the set of 3 is in Paleo-Phoenician, and the one on the right is as well. What you've got then is these metal plates, an example of this, and this is what the brass plates, and the golden plates for that matter, probably looked like. Probably the writing was a bit smaller, and this is the Paleo-Hebrew script in the middle one on the left, and the one on the right also has Paleo-Hebrew. Now, another example of writing on metal plates that's worth taking a note of is the Ketef Chenom plates from Jerusalem from the early 6th century BC. This is right at the time of Lehi. They were found in a tomb that is shown here on the left, on the lower photo, and on the right is a photograph of the plate and a transcription of the Paleo-Hebrew script on there. This contains a passage from Numbers about the priestly blessing that the priests were supposed to give when they blessed the people from the temple. And it is the oldest surviving text of the Bible that we have. So it's very interesting to note that the oldest copy of the Bible we have, of any manuscript, any document of the Bible, any inscription whatsoever, the oldest copy we have is on metal plates. This is a silver plate. It's rather small. It's a couple inches tall. And it comes from Jerusalem, and it dates to the early 6th century BC, precisely at the time of Lehi. So that's kind of fascinating that you've got this connection with writing on metal plates. And the bibliography is given there in the blue box if you want to take a look and find some more information on these. So they're described as going up to Jerusalem and coming down when they leave Jerusalem. That's an interesting little note because up and down are geographical terms in Hebrew. Going up and going down means to ascend higher and to descend lower. In other words, up is an ascent to higher topographical ground. Down is a descent to lower topographical ground. In English, those terms don't always mean that, but when you look at the Book of Mormon and you read it closely, they're always consistent in going up to Jerusalem and down away from Jerusalem, and in other places as well. So the consistency of the text describing the language of travel with up and down referring to elevated geography is very interesting. The brothers decide to cast lots to see who's supposed to go talk to Laban, and the lot falls on Laban. Now, casting lots in antiquity was not believed to be a randomizer. It was controlled by God. That is to say, you cast the lots somehow, and there were different ways to do this, but God controlled the outcome of the lots, and essentially the Lord was choosing. This is clear in Joshua. The references I give here to Joshua and Acts are accounts of determining the will of the Lord by casting lots. And also they determine the temple assignments by casting lots as well. This is in the Book of Chronicles that's described. So casting lots is a common thing in antiquity and represents a form of divination or determining prophecy. Anyway, Laban gets the lot. He's supposed to go up. He asks Laban. Laban just thinks this is preposterous, throws him out and says, you come back again, I'm going to arrest you or kill you as a robber. So, essentially they fail, and the brothers have now tried to do what their father says, and so they're willing to quit, go home. We've tried it, didn't work, we're going. Nephi, however, tries to get his brothers to reconsider. And he gives an oath, as the Lord liveth. This is found in a couple of places in the Book of Mormon. It's a standard Hebrew oath, swearing by the Lord. And it's used 27 times in the Old Testament. Basically, he swears an oath then that he will not go down until he has accomplished what the Lord has commanded, going down again. So they go to the lands of inheritance. They decide to get the money and try to buy the plates, basically. And Nephi argues in 17 and 18 that we can't go back to Jerusalem. You might as well give up this idea because the people are about to be destroyed. The people of Jerusalem want to kill Lehi, and the city is going to be destroyed anyway, so that you've either got to leave or you're going to perish. And he tries to convince them of that, and seems to more or less succeed to some extent. The brothers stick with him throughout the entire affair with Laban. Now, Nephi in verses 19 and 20 talks about why we've got to obtain the records. He needs the records, number one, to preserve the language. That is the Jewish language. It's the cultural, cultic, and mystic language of the Jews. And if you don't have that language, you're not going to have the capacity to read the scriptures. And number two, he needs to preserve the words of all the holy prophets. That is the actual revelations in the text of the Bible. So there's two aspects of this. The language, the knowledge of the language and culture, but number two, the actual texts. And without the records, you're going to lose both of those things. That's Nephi's concern. He also describes the words of the holy prophets as being delivered by the Spirit and power of God since the world began. So in other words, he sees this as a continuum of revelation from the beginning of the world down to the present time, his day. Anyway, they get the plan, they go down, they get the treasure from their house, and they offer that to Laban, and of course Laban refuses and says, he steals their treasure basically and kicks them out, threatens again to kill them, and they flee. Now Laban and Lemuel are pretty mad. The fundamental reason they're mad is that they've lost all their treasure. They've spent everything they have, and they haven't got the plates. So they have a fight. They beat Nephi, and an angel appears to save him, and basically says that the Lord will deliver Laban into your hands, and so forth. Now they're hiding in a cavity of a rock, and I've got a picture there on the right which shows you the terrain. This is about 10 or 20 miles south east of Jerusalem. Shows you what the terrain is like. It's the Wadi Kidron, right near the monastery of Marsaba, about 10 miles, 15 miles east of Bethlehem. And you can see it's very, the type of limestone that's there erodes in very unique patterns. It creates lots of crevices, crags, and caves. And there's plenty of these in the area. So I can give you a sense of the type of land they're living in. It's the wilderness. The only source of water is in the Kidron there. And you can see the green plants around the base of the stream flowing through the Kidron. The rest of the country is just barren. So that's the type of place they're hiding out with. The angel says he'll deliver Laban to the brothers, but Laban and Lemuel still are concerned because Laban is called a mighty man. In Hebrew, this retro translates to Gibor. It means an elite warrior. He's a very powerful warrior, and he's also a commander of 50, which is a technical term for probably a captain or a major in contemporary armies. So the situation is set now where they've tried several times to get the plates, and Nephi is ready to go. The angel essentially convinces them to go back one more time and give it one more try, and that's what happens in chapter 4.